Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day?
Hello everyone, my name is Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is August 26th, 2025. And I am both bullish on Bitcoin and as bearish as I've ever been. What does that mean? Well, my friends, it's time frame dependent. This is very important, very, very important, because a lot of analysts miss this. You'll hear very flippantly on social media, people speak of bulls and bears. Well, I'm a trader, I'm an analyst, I'm not a bull or a bear, okay? And it depends on the time frame what I believe is likely the more likely outcome. So on the small time frames, I'm bullish. Medium time frame, extremely bearish. I'm going to explain. So if that all interests you, then watch until the very end. I'm going to talk about why I'm small time frame bullish on Bitcoin, medium time frame as bearish as I've ever been, and why I'm extremely bullish on some altcoins. Okay, so this is a very exciting episode because we're about to see big things in the market. Let's get started. Let's not waste any more time. Let's start with Bitcoin on the daily time frame. I don't think this is a particularly difficult read. So last we spoke, I said I'm bearish on Bitcoin. I still believe we're going to go much lower. But first, I think that we're likely to come up to, I think I said between 117 and 119K. And I gave a few reasons. I gave reasons in terms of liquidity, CME gaps. And I also said, this was likely going to be some sort of or wave one, wave two scenario. Well, time elapsed and I watched the price action and a few things were invalidated and I had to go back to the drawing board. What was invalidated? Firstly, the whole wave one, wave two thing. The timing is off and this can no longer be a B wave. These two, there's no mathematical relationship between them in terms of a contiguous move. All right, this has come down too far right here. So that is off the table. When that happened, this is exactly what I did. This is exactly what I told myself. All right, I need to go back to the drawing board because I have no idea what this is. And people may think, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're an analyst. You charge for your analysis, for your consulting. You must know." No, I don't. At least there are times I don't know. And that is actually, those are the most powerful times when you're just open to potential and possibilities. And you're open and you're honest and you're raw and you're like, I don't know. And in that not knowing space, some knowing can creep in. So here's what I came up with. And I didn't force this, but it seemed really clear to me what I'm about to tell you. Firstly, I look at this as still an A and B pivot. I call it a pivot. It's basically a flat correction. Okay, it's a massive flat correction. Thus far, it's almost 40 days in the making. And I labeled these, at least in my opinion, correctly in the beginning, right? I said, this is an A wave or initial break of structure, okay, right? And I'm looking for a B wave. So where did I go wrong? Thinking that this was the end of the B wave. Typically, statistically speaking, B waves take longer than the A wave, a little longer. Okay, and that they're very seldom, if ever, do you see a B wave last less than an A wave. I don't know why that is, but it's almost like it takes more time for the reaction. So the A wave is the breakup structure and the B wave is the counter. The A wave you can call the correction, the B wave is the counter correction. So the counter correction you can say maybe takes longer because people need to figure out what they want to do. Buyers and sellers are like, oh yeah, I'm bullish. You know, like let's say you just take this breakup structure to the downside, for instance, right? Buyers have to muster the strength and the courage and the wherewithal to say, you know what, I know it went down, but I'm still bullish. I think there's still a chance, right? And then they're like, you know what, I don't know about that. It's probably not such a good idea. It's yeah, you know what, it's probably topped. And then maybe at some point in time there are still some people saying, but on second thought, it can't be over now. Let's try it again. And again, you can see 1, 2, 3. I do not know why this works. I do not know why this is. I'm just observing it. In my personal research, I used to like count all of these things and time all of these things. I have spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets of breaks of structure. I tried to find patterns, haven't found any. Nor did I find any in my research. So people may have done the same thing I did and didn't find any patterns. The only patterns I found are the patterns that have been laid out in Elliott wave analysis, where your A wave breaks one way and the B wave breaks to a minimum of the 786. If this is a flat correction, it's a maximum of 1618. That's all I know. So that's exactly what this is, I believe. This is a contiguous B wave. And again, this is A, B, and C of B. So this all is one contiguous break of structure or counter correction, let's just say, of this. So that is the first reason I'm expecting a big move in the immediate short term for Bitcoin. That's my Elliott wave analysis, okay? Again, my Elliott wave analysis seldom ever it goes, oh, that's wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like, most of Elliott wave analysis takes place in corrective price action, because most of all price action is corrective. Very seldom do you have pure impulsive price action. So when people claim to, do Elliott wave analysis and they never talk about correction, be very careful. You should be talking mostly about correction and corrective patterns. In any case, that's number one. Number two, if you look at Bitcoin on just the daily time frame and you draw this trend line right here, as I have, you can see we, since April of this year, have respected this trend line until recently, the beginning of this month, where we broke the trend line. We retested it bearishly. That was the first bearish retest right here. And typically any bearish retest or bullish retest has at least 2 touch points. This is the other reason I think, okay, I think I see from a pattern analysis vantage where this is going. From simple support and resistance, you test it, you broke support, tested it, now you retest it before you die. That is what I'm looking at. Now, again, back to Elliott wave. Elliott wave gives us a boundary for this entire structure, for this entire counter correction. What you can do is you can take your Fibonacci retracement. So you can take your Fibonacci retracement tool of this A wave, and you can see that this B wave, typically, I've never ever seen it in all my chart hours, 10,000 plus, much more than 10,000 plus hours, but all my obsessive chart hours for almost a decade, I've never seen a B wave break the inverse or break the 1618, break the phi ratio. So basically, in other words, I'm saying whatever happens here, Bitcoin doesn't break 130K. And typically, these B waves, when bullish, they land between the 1236 and the 1618. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to go all-time high between 126 and 130. Okay? And it may even just come shy of this 137, 130,700. Okay? So it may come all the way here and retest this trend line. Don't be surprised if we hit 130, and right when we hit 130, right when we hit 130, because this is a completed pair of corrections. So this is what we call the pivot in the larger grand scheme of things. Again, you have to have your high time frame viewpoint, your high time frame vantage to really understand what's going on. Why is this significant? Again, for those who don't know, it's because if you're looking at it from a high time frame vantage, you've been essentially making a massive distribution pattern that is in the final phases. We call this the upthrust after distribution in Wyckoff analysis. In Elliott wave AB base, I personally call this a pivot. Okay, there's no like official technical term for it. Is AB basing is something I've developed from what Ralph Nelson Elliott described in his manuscripts. So I think that you do get a test of 130. I'm almost positive we go all-time high, and it probably retest this multi-month level of support, now turned resistance, before a lot of people get fooled. I'm telling you, and I can see it already. And this is exactly, or typically, this is very typical. There's nothing like odd or strange about what I'm about to say, because we've seen it so many times, and this is actually what the market loves to do. The market loves to get everybody going in one direction and then massively grab all that liquidity that was piled up in this move, because as we go all-time high, people are just going to start building positions thinking, okay, we're doing it, we're finally doing it, and then it's going to touch this level and completely rinse. We call that a max pain event, where you're grabbing liquidity, because understand, people like me do see on the medium time frame there's a lot of bearishness in the Bitcoin chart. So there's a lot of shorts building up, and you can see, we'll see in a second, there's a lot of liquidity in shorts at these levels. But if they're smart, they're gonna hide their short liquidations and stops beyond the 618, beyond this multi-month resistance. And so there's some smart, savvy traders that have done that. You'll see another pocket of liquidity of Bitcoin in Bitcoin's charter between 135 and 140. Those are relatively safe in my estimation. But these right here that are just sitting there for the taking, they're going to be taken out. And we'll see it on the heat map, the liquidation heat map. That's the next pool of liquidity to be taken out right here. Okay? So there's so many things that make this analysis likely. Again, the liquidity explains it. First, a lot of people think, oh, it's over. We went lower than expected. People expected, just like I did, a support level here. We didn't get that. We came lower than expected. Not to go even lower, but to go higher than lower. Okay? Very, very common move here. It's going to be a swing failure at this level, grab all the liquidity, and because it grabs this liquidity up and then back down, it's going to rocket. And it's probably not going to bounce until, let's just give you this, I haven't figured this out, but let's do it together really quickly. shouldn't be tough. So let's say we do that, right? What I just described. We go from where we're at right now to 130, or right at 130, and then we we completely go right back down. We don't stop. It's gonna go from 130 all the way down to probably 90. Yeah. So you can expect. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're gonna talk about this later, if we have time. If this doesn't happen in like one, because a lot of times you do this analysis and you think it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time, and it's taken so long. Things take long to materialize, to mature on the charts, and then all of a sudden they don't, and then it just happens like that. So I'm not mad that I'm talking about this all now, because it may, once we get there, then comes right back down. People don't have time, won't have time. Unless you do it in advance, you will not have time to prepare to get out of the way. This is why I keep saying on social media, on Twitter, that Tom Lee's ETH trade is it's going to go down as potentially one of the worst trades in all of crypto. It's a sloppy execution, just sloppy buying of billions of dollars of Ethereum at very dangerous levels. Very, very, very sloppy, very dangerous. In any case, that's another thing. But yeah, I see a 30% move, and it's just gonna boom, completely rinse most market participants, which is exactly what the market likes to do. Make the fools of most. All right, so that's Bitcoin. That's where I see it. Now let's get into really quickly the liquidity heat map. Again, this is for free on CoinGlass. You can just go on coinglass.com and pull this up. I personally like the Model 2. There's 3 models that you can choose from. So here you can see exactly what I was saying. Look at Bitcoin liquidation heat map. And the super charts, basically, it's like it aggregates all of the charts, the big exchanges, and where all the liquidity sits on all the major exchanges. So Binance, OKX, BitMEX, BTCC, all of them. Okay, and you can see exactly what I was saying. From where we're at right now, there's very little liquidity. There's some liquidity below us. Okay, there's a pool that starts at around, let's see, where is this? At around 95 into the region I said we would likely go to after we pull up the move to the upside. But the move to the upside, the liquidity, the pool sits between 125, as you can see here, and 130, 133, 125 and 133. Okay? So that's exactly our target, between 125 and 133. Do expect a Bitcoin all-time high, and immediately after, expect a violent move down to 90, a little bit below 90. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Now, this morning, when I saw this and this was clear to me, actually it was last night that it was clear to me on the charts, but this morning I thought, hey, wait, this looks really good for altcoins, but I don't see it in the TOTAL3. So for those of you who follow me, you know that I do trade with clients in the Bitcoin, in the crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service, which you can sign up for at the pinned comment below. And I thought, I don't know about my entire thesis of getting really bullish in altcoins only as they get on support here. I started to question that, and that makes all the sense in the world. But when I was looking through the charts this morning, I started to see a pattern. And I quickly sent a message to my group, and I said, hey, I'm going to send some updates. And I sent a bunch of updates for the altcoins that we trade. And I said, we may get a move. And this is important. And I was like, wait, but that doesn't make sense. Dean, how are you seeing moves in the altcoins that you're trading, yet the total 3, which represents all, the totality of altcoins minus Ethereum, it's still at resistance? How does that make sense? And I thought about it. No shit. Like, this total 3 is a decent approximation of what altcoins are doing, but it's not telling the full story. In respect to my clients and what we do, I'm not going to divulge too much in this segment, but I'll just say this. The total 3 will give you mostly what the larger altcoin market caps are doing. So there's such a discrepancy between the market cap of XRP and the market cap of VRA, for instance, that you won't really get the influence of VRA's chart on here. This was clear to me. So I was like, okay, you can't, and this is why, clients, I didn't post total 3 chart, the total 3 chart in this morning's update, because I can't use this anymore. It doesn't make sense. It's not reflecting our portfolio. Our portfolio is on support, and it's showing massive support, okay? And I kept seeing a 200-day inverse head and shoulders bullish reversal pattern on most of our charts, and I'm like, wait, where's that in the total 3? I thought the total 3 had to come all the way down here before we started running. That being said, and I'm sorry I can't get more descriptive. Again, this is something I do. This is my work. My clients have paid for this, so in all respect to them, I can't go ahead and just give you everything. But all I'll say is this. Don't be surprised if you see certain altcoins moving in a big way as Bitcoin goes all-time high, while others don't. And they kind of get stuck here at resistance because that's where they're at. You're going to see, again, altcoins move up, generally speaking, but many altcoins are just going to, come back to where they left, right? Resistance, resistance, resistance. They're not necessarily breaking resistance. They're at resistance. You do not break resistance at resistance. Yet, other altcoins are going to fly. That's all I'll say on that. So that's the total 3. Total 3 is still at resistance, but don't be surprised to see other altcoins flying as Bitcoin tries to make all-time high. Last but not least, the Bitcoin dominance chart. Here again, it's not telling the full story, and this is why you have to, people keep saying, well, this indicator is saying that, and that indicator is saying this. This is why price action is king. This is why when I do my analysis, and sometimes I criticize for it, people are like, hey, you can't just use price action. You need more indicators. You need the indicator 5,000. You need the, the this and that indicator for serious analysis, because everybody uses that, right? But indicators are by design meant to lag. And to be able to use indicators well and not be used by them, you have to understand their limitations. So just like I described the total 3's limitation in what I'm doing, for instance, and what my clients are doing, for instance, I also have to recognize that Bitcoin dominance's chart is not going to tell the full story. So what am I trying to say here? Well, Bitcoin dominance on the high time frame is at support, and it's finding support where we thought it would, right, at the bottom of a 765 plus day channel. So do expect Bitcoin dominance to eventually matriculate back up here. When Bitcoin dominance goes up, generally speaking, Bitcoin is gaining against altcoins. So as Bitcoin matriculates to all-time high, altcoins maybe don't do as much. They're probably not going to move as much. So Bitcoin, where it's at right now to all-time high, is about 15-16%, meaning if Bitcoin dominance is trending upwards, or it's likely to trend upwards, you can expect altcoins in general to do maybe 8%, 7%, 9%, something like that, right? That makes sense. But you would be wrong in assuming that all altcoins are going to behave in that way. No, that's just reflective of the largest market caps. These indicators, they're a catch-all, but in catching all, there's a lot of nuance that's lost. I hope everybody's getting what I'm trying to say here. Even though Bitcoin dominance is a great indicator to look at, to follow, you always have to be cognizant of the limitations of the indicators. Bitcoin dominance is an indicator. TOTAL3 is an indicator. Both are normalized. They're not actual assets. Bitcoin dominance reflects Bitcoin's dominance vis-a-vis the rest of the altcoin market. But again, it's going to be heavily skewed towards the highest market caps. The Litecoins of the world, the XRPs of the world, the Cardanos of the world, the top 30 altcoins. So if Bitcoin dominance is going up, it doesn't mean that no altcoins are going to absolutely demolish Bitcoin in terms of gains as it's trying to make all-time high. This is where the analysis has to get from, basic to more refined. You have to refine your analysis. So I come in and day out, talk to you about what Bitcoin dominance is doing, what TOTAL3 is doing, to get an idea of what altcoins are doing. But that doesn't always apply in every single circumstance, and it doesn't apply to myself and my clients for our portfolio right now, as you will soon see. Guys, that's my analysis for today. Hope this was helpful, useful. Like, share, and subscribe if you got value. Consider joining my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service, where you can trade an undisclosed portfolio of altcoins with us and finally make big gains, as we intend to. And so you can sign up for that at the pinned comment below. Also, if you're interested just on my outlook on a single asset, I have a service that's a single asset analysis. It's just $120, send payment, and within 24 hours I will send you a pre-recorded analysis of whatever you want analyze, whatever trading pair, whatever commodity asset. Just specify what it is. It doesn't even have to be crypto. As long as there's a viable chart, I can analyze it. And finally, BTC.C, my exchange partner, is offering 10% cash back on new deposits to the exchange. Only thing you have to do is make a minimum deposit of 500 USDT or the equivalent, and make one trade, either spot or leverage, and wait 7 days. You will get your 10% cash back, no questions asked. Guys, that's it. Take care. I'll see you later. Bye.
I vocalize, too deep to localize, even when I'm right on the surface. You act surprised how I work this, but I can't lie. Many a good alibi. I'll catch you later. Visions are vividly enhanced with emphasis and amethyst to develop morale advantages which help us manifest. Magnanimous, revive vitals like evangelists. So listen when you're dealing with people who be revealing premonitions with precision. At least that's what I'm aiming at for now. I speak the language of the world, meandering throughout the crowd. Used to feel safe to say anything, but now it's a risk. It's hard for me to let go when all I can do is reminisce. Gone like the wind. Here's